All right, flip this over, and we're getting ready to move on to the next. One thing I haven't talked too much about is these stands, man. If you're constantly working on your car and doing different things, bumpers, obviously headliner, freaking trim pieces and stuff like that, this is a must. I got this from Amazon. I don't particularly love this just because it's kind of a pain to close up, but just having a stand in general is going to save you a lot of headache, backache, so on and so forth. So yeah, it's 50 bucks and you got yourself a nice stand. Anyways, we're going to move on to what's next. I'm going to be peeling this material off this headliner. As you can tell, I already started. And the reason for that is you want the new stuff, the new suede that we're actually applying to stick onto the plastic well. So we're going to be peeling this all the way off. This is going to take some time. Fortunately, I did end up, as you guys saw last time, I washed all that dirt off. So it's still dirty, but now my hands won't be too bad. All right, as you can see, this is not easy. This is about 10 minutes in, and this is as far as I got, maybe 10%. So this is gonna take a good hour plus. Tips for you guys is to, once you have the edges out, it becomes a lot easier because then you have more leverage to pull. So as you can see now, I don't even need two hands to basically pull. It would be nice if you had multiple people assisting. You can have this done in quite a bit of time, a lot less time, I should say. But we're gonna keep chugging along, and yeah, just put on some headphones and kind of just go to town. Finally, about an hour and a half later, I really took my time with this, but this was a major pain in the ass. I really took my time with it just because there's no rush, number one. And number two, you guys got to remember that this is really old material, and I'm pretty sure some sort of plastic. And I didn't want to crack it or anything like that. So if you start tugging and yanking on it, I have a feeling you could really break something. I would really hate to crack something in the middle. That would suck. So my advice to you guys is to take your time, work your way towards the middle from all angles. I started first this way and I was just going to pull it all the way, but I realized that wasn't working. So I kind of started back this way and worked my way towards the middle. This corner was very difficult. Not sure why. As you can tell, we got residue over here of this stuff. So I'm going to have to scrape that off. As far as getting this stuff off, I don't really know how I'm going to do it. Just logically thinking, I would think one of those pet scrape things would really work. The ones that you can use on rugs and stuff, I think that would work well. Unfortunately, I don't have one, and I don't want to order one. I'd really like to get moving on this because I don't want to have to wait for a couple days on those. So I'm gonna try something that I think might work. If not, I'm gonna hit up Walmart and see if they have anything available. Hopefully they do, and kind of work from there. You guys are gonna watch this video kind of in reverse, but just my suggestion to you is if you're gonna do anything to the other side of this, to the headliner, do this first, because as you're yanking on it, you're putting a lot of pressure and kind of splitting this apart. This will make sense here shortly, but my recommendation is to do this first. All right, guys, I tried a couple different methods and I'm not really getting too crazy results. I mean, I guess it's technically working. So far I've tried this brush right here. You attach it to this, to the little mini impact right here, and then same thing with that brush by hand, and I didn't get great results. I mean, I guess it's technically working, but I still think that pet hair scraper is probably the way to go. So I'm gonna try to see if I can maybe go to the pet store and hopefully they have something similar. And then I think the combination of that plus this will yield some pretty solid results. But I mean, I guess overall, as long as you use plenty of glue, I think you will be fine, because there's no way I'm gonna get all this stuff off. It looks like it was fused together, this with the old headliner. So I'm gonna give that a shot and see what happens. Stuff's giving me allergies. All right, guys, welcome back. It's been a few days and I did end up ordering one of these pet hair removal things. And I gotta say, I'm pretty disappointed, just because not only did I wait, but also this doesn't work very well. As you can tell, it doesn't really do what I thought it would. It just made sense in my head just because I've seen these work on carpets. So I'm not sure why it doesn't work on this very well. So I'm gonna continue hitting it with the wire wheel, and we'll see how far we get with this. In theory, as long as you get the big clumps out of the way, this is good enough. But I wanted to get as much of this off because I don't want any issues with this headliner kind of sagging or lifting on me. So we'll hit it with the wire wheel a little bit, maybe get it with a brush, and then we'll move on.
A lot of boring math later.
All right, we have a lot to cover. This is actually the second time I'm doing this. You guys get to learn from my mistakes. Don't worry, don't panic. This was a decision that I decided to make, and I regretted it later. So it technically wasn't a mistake. But yeah, if you guys listen to everything I have to pass here, you should be just fine. Honestly, this is very, very easy if you do it the correct way, basically. So first things first, this is the material that I decided to go with. And before I tell you where I got it from, let me explain a couple things. So went with this the second time because the original material that I used, which they're both suede, they're just different types of suede, I guess. It's not listed in the description anywhere. They just, obviously you can tell the difference between them. This is a little bit more hairy, for lack of a better term, than this. But this had a longer shipping time. So when I decided to pull it off, I wanted to redo it as soon as possible. And that's why there's differences in the types of materials. I'm actually kind of glad I went with this the second time because this seems to match the seats a lot better than this, just because the seats aren't as hairy as this original one that I chose. So these are a little bit more suitable for that. Before you, the first thing you should do as soon as you get your material is you should lay it out and let these creases kind of disappear on their own. So I did that for this. I let it sit for like 2 weeks, honestly. I just laid it on the floor and let it sit for about 2 weeks, and all the creases went away. That's from the shipping. So I obviously didn't have the time to do this, so this is why you see these creases there. It should go away in time with the heat and all that stuff and being stretched out. Now, before I tell you where I got this from, you guys need to remember that this is all going on a Mitsubishi, not some crazy luxury car. So don't freak out when I tell you where I got it from. I did a little bit of research and talked to some people, and they basically stated that all these materials all basically come from the same place unless you go to like a very specific specialty place. But I actually got both of these from Amazon. These are specifically designed for headliner, which is why you see this foam backing on it. They basically prepare it for you to use on the headliner. So all in all, I don't regret it. This seems to be really good material, and it matches really well with the seats and everything else. All right, now let's talk about how we get this done and what we need. So first things first, you're gonna need an adhesive. This is the glue that I decided to go with. It's 3M headliner adhesive. 1 can should do enough for you. Just make sure to read the instructions. The instructions state that you have, after you spray it, you have 30 seconds to 15 minutes before it starts at. Basically, that's your window to make sure you make any corrections to anything, because otherwise it'll start bonding after that. So 1 can should do you good. Once again, I ended up redoing this, so I had to get 2 cans. Now, this isn't required. However, I highly recommend it. The first time I did this was a lifesaver. The reason for it is it helps you get those intricate places without having to use your hand. So not only your hand is just not able to create the same type of movement. So this was great for me, and not only that, but you don't want to be touching this stuff, so this helps keeping it clean. Moving on to this is what I recommend, guys. So I recommend an old school pair of scissors. I also bought this kit. You don't need this, regular razor blade will do, but I recommend you only use this or any razor blade for cutting the holes in the middle. So only utilize the blade to cut these holes right here and anything else. I don't recommend you do it through the perimeter because it's not gonna leave a smooth cut. Regardless of how sharp you think it may be, it's not gonna do it. And then not to mention, you have a lot more control with the scissors. So I highly recommend you use a old school nice pair of scissors, and that should suit you just fine. If you do end up having to redo this for whatever reason, let's say you mess up, you will need to obviously pull the old headliner off, and then you'll have to get the old glue off. This is a bit of a pain, and that's what you see right over there. That's all residue from the old glue Took about an hour to get this off. So just be mindful. You can, this isn't permanent, so if you wanted to remove it for whatever reason, you can. You're just gonna have to obviously replace the material and then get the old glue. I used my my drill with this wire wheel, and that helped. I mean, it pretty much got all of it. It just takes time, and then obviously get some compressed air to kind of blow it off, and that's how I got it off. Once again, this doesn't help as much, but it was a little bit more helpful with the glue than it was with anything else. So with that being said, let's get to it. All right, guys, got some people outside making noise. They're moving. So I closed the garage door, but you should be able to still see it just fine. Now, the first thing you're gonna wanna do is go ahead and lay the material on there somewhat evenly. If you do wanna save some extra material, obviously leave that hanging on one side and then try to leave it pretty even on the other. So that's the first thing you're gonna wanna do. After you do that, you're gonna go ahead and fold this over halfway, and I'll show you what that looks like. All right, so I decided to not go all the way half just because there's a hole right here and I don't want that to be my middle section. So I'm choosing just right above it. So that's what you do. Make sure not to crease it too much. So don't be putting your hands or anything on it, because that'll leave obviously a crease. So when you're spraying this glue, be mindful that it's hard to tell how much glue you're putting on because it matches this material pretty well. So just be careful with it. You want to use enough, but you don't want to use too much, because if you use too much, it'll start seeping through the actual material. Go in a pattern to where you know you're basically laying enough of that stuff, and you're going to want to use it both on the headliner and the material as well. All right, guys, halfway done, and I don't know if you saw in the video, very stupid of me, but I accidentally sprayed some glue on the actual headliner, on the material. Very stupid of me. No big deal. I ran inside and I grabbed a towel, microfiber towel, dipped it in some water, wrung it out, brought it out here, and gently wiped the glue off. Anything I couldn't get with the rag, I used my nail and gently just kind of picked at it, and that seemed to work. Mistakes happen. It is what it is. What you can do, that I've seen people do, is they take like a cardboard box or something else to basically lay on here. And what you end up doing is, just in case you end up spraying some glue, it goes on that and not the headliner. All right, so as far as how to actually lay this stuff out, it's the same thing pretty much for the whole entire headliner. So what you do is spray the glue as you saw, and then you start working your way from the inside out. And basically you're using your hands, and if you have that tool right over there, basically just rolling this on and make sure it sticks on all the way. When you get to these contours right over here, what you want to do is hold it up with one hand and then gently basically massaging it in the corners all around here, and then working your way towards the outside just like that. This applies to all of them, including this one. I am making a game time decision, and I'm not going to be running the handles. I just don't use them. And then not to mention, I think it looks cleaner without them. If I decide later on that I want to use them, I could always cut holes in them. But obviously if I cut the holes now, I have to basically use them. So I'm making a game time decision on that. This is overall pretty easy. Don't overthink it. You have plenty of time to actually get the glue on there and massage it on there. And it's pretty forgiving. If you make a mistake and you accidentally glue something you didn't want to, just gently lift it up. And then basically work it back. But just remember that you have that window from 30 seconds to 15 minutes. After 15 minutes, this stuff starts bonding. All right, guys, there you have it. So second half is done. So you're gonna wanna let this sit for about an hour. In my case, I'm gonna go hit the gym, and it'll be a couple hours. So one thing to note is don't focus too much on the corners. So you can get those later once you make the slits, and then once you trim the rest of it. So don't focus too much on this area. Just make sure you got the middle section and it's all glued and all the contours and all that stuff. All right, we're back and everything looks good. Everything stayed pretty nicely. I'm really glad I went with this material over the other one. But anyways, we're ready to cut, and this is where I made a very big mistake the last time. It was a decision that I decided to make, and this is why I ended up redoing this overall. So what I ended up doing, instead of, everybody suggested you leave some extra material and you fold it over. Instead of doing that, I figured back then that I would just try to cut it along the seam and basically just not do the fold over. And the reason why I thought this would be a good idea is because that's how the OEM one is. It's basically, there is no folding over. It's basically layered on there perfectly. And I thought I can maybe get it with the razor blade. But here I am telling you not to do that. Freaking go ahead and end up folding it over, because there's just no way that you're gonna be able to cut that perfectly. And it will be visible if you try to basically do what I did before. So what we're gonna do is we're gonna leave about 1.5 inches or so, just enough material so we can fold it over and glue it, and then go from there. Now remember, you don't wanna cut too much, so you're better off cutting less than more, because you could always cut more later. So play it safe when you do start cutting. And once again, make sure to use the scissors instead, because you just have more control this way. I've seen some videos of some guys, they pretty much just slice it off, but I wasn't able to do that. I don't know, maybe it's a lack of experience or what.
A few inches later.
All right, I'm now realizing geometry is not my strong suit. But anyways, it doesn't have to be perfect, guys. Basically, you're trying to see what's logical here. Obviously, you can't fold this over like that, so that's why I made those specific slits on there. Just try to get it to where you can actually glue it over and it's not all bunched up. Make the slits wherever you feel is necessary. I am going to end up cutting kind of like around here, just so I can get to that, because all this will be covered. In theory, all this should be covered because of the pillars, but I wanted to play it safe and kind of went in a little bit. But just make your best judgment call and kind of just mess around with it. As long as you're able to fold it over like this, you'll be just fine. And I went ahead and did this first because I didn't want to cut these holes and accidentally spray glue through here. So that's why I did this first. So we'll go ahead and start gluing, and then we'll cut these holes. All right, there you have it. So quick reminder, this doesn't have to be perfect. In theory, you don't even need glue, because once it's folded over, it's not gonna undo itself and then come out unless you're messing with it and tugging it. So the glue is just really there just to kind of hold it, but like, as long as it's folded over, you'll be fine. So don't be afraid to kind of make any adjustments or anything like that. It doesn't really matter what it looks like. The only places that it matters is the corners over here. So you want to make sure that you tuck it to where you can't see it in the corners. But that's pretty much it. So I'm gonna cut these holes now and we'll go from there. All right, guys, there you have it. Everything's cut. Got the holes all cut up. Once again, I opted to not use the handles, so that's why I didn't cut these. A little bit more painful than it was the first time, just because these freaking razor blades are like dull. They get so dull so quickly. I honestly don't recommend that kit at all. So just get yourself a regular razor blade. And just do it that way, and just take your time. Honestly, you can't really mess this up. As long as the hole is somewhat close to it, you'll be just fine. You guys got to remember that that piece is going to be covering a good chunk of this, so you can't really mess it up. Now, if you wanted to go ahead and fix these or reglue them, whatever it is that you want to do, now is the time to do it. I did it originally first, and I learned quickly that they start separating just because when you're flipping it over and putting pressure on this, it tends to separate it. So just now is the time to do it if you were going to fix these. And I'm going to show you footage of that now. After we got this headliner removed, and I had it drying for a little while. It ended up falling over, and unfortunately, one of these foam pieces fell off. And as you can tell, the glue on it is pretty old, and now that I look at all the other ones, these are pretty loose, all of them. So I was kind of confused because I didn't know what type of glue this is. This isn't something that I do normally, so I asked on Instagram if anybody knew, and the homie Jason Ventura was the first one to hit me up, and he let me know that this is from a glue gun. So I had never used one before, so a quick little Google search, and I ended up finding them available at Harbor Freight, and went and picked one of them up. They have a couple different options. You can get the bigger one if you wanted to, but honestly, I don't anticipate ever having to use this again. So I bought the mini one, and then you're gonna need the mini glue sticks. So that's what I got here. And then I ended up getting a nicer knife. So what we're gonna do next is glue this thing on. But first, I'm gonna go ahead and heat this old glue up, and then I'm gonna scrape it off with that putty knife. All right, so tips for you guys: if you're redoing these from scratch, like you have them completely off, just go ahead and get the big one. I didn't anticipate the glue not coming out fast enough out of the small one, and I felt like I was running out of time just because obviously this glue, it dries somewhat quickly. So if you're redoing them from scratch, like they're completely off, get the big one. If you're just gonna reinforce the perimeters around these and they're still intact, then I would use the small one. I think the small one will get you by. As you can see, the small one was great for these types of small things. But overall, not bad, man. These are definitely in better shape than they were when I pulled it off. So I think we're good. These are pretty sturdy. I just redid pretty much everything. And as you can tell, no more wiggling. All right, guys, gonna get moving on these trim pieces. You're not supposed to paint either during or shortly after rain, but it's been raining all weekend and we finally got a break in the weather. So I'm gonna take my chances and spray these down. As far as what I'm using the good old trim and bumper paint from Duplicolor. This is the same stuff that I used for the cowls and the fan up front and all that stuff. I really like it, so hopefully it works for us. I'm gonna try to do 2 coats and then go from there. You guys have seen me paint stuff a million times here, so I'm gonna save you from the boredom, and I'll just show you afterwards. All right, guys, here we are. After 1 coat, looks pretty good. I was pretty confident in this stuff. I've used it before, so not really too concerned. This stuff is amazing, man. And one of the things I really like about it is how forgiving it is. Like, it just, no matter how you lay it on there, it pretty much dries all the same. It looks pretty good. There are some spots I missed right over there and stuff. So 1 can, I don't think is enough for all these, unfortunately, so I might have to get another one. I definitely will have to get another one, actually, because I still got to do the handles if I decide to go that route with those. But I'm debating if I'm going to delete the handles. Either way, more than likely, I'm going to need another can. So I would suggest 2 cans if you want to do more than 1 coat, which I also suggest to do 2 coats. So overall, not bad. Not bad at all. Once again, this stuff, you got to remember, it's still paint. So I think over time, not that you're really touching the pillars like that, but over time, you'll probably have to touch these up as time goes on and all that, but overall, not bad.
Several days later.
All right, here's how the trim pieces came out, and came out pretty good. Just keep in mind that this is not a permanent solution, so I'm gonna be hearing a lot of that stuff. I didn't use a paint promoter, or I forget what it's called, but basically you lay that on before the paint. I wanted a very, very natural looking black trim, and I definitely didn't add a clear coat, even though some of you may suggest it. So over time, this may chip, especially without the clear coat. So if you do want to do this and you want a permanent solution, by all means, try whatever it is that you want to try. But overall, it came out pretty good. This trim and bumper paint is really good, man. This is the same stuff that I used for the cowl and for the AC fan and all that stuff a while back, and it came out pretty good. So it works really good on this type of plastic. I'm not too crazy about how it turned out over here. Just it didn't bond to the plastics. Don't mind that little dust. But yeah, it didn't bond to the plastic as well as I thought it would. I'm assuming this is a different type of plastic than this, but not too bad. Overall, it looks pretty good. All right, next up we have these visors. I originally want to have these done in the same suede that I have for the headliner. However, I struggled to find anybody that could do these for me. I don't know why people just didn't want to touch them. I'm not sure why. I contacted a few places, a few people, and they all pretty much declined it. So I didn't want to paint them at first, just because it kind of looked tacky in my opinion, but it looks like we're gonna have to go that route. So this is what we'll be using, this vinyl and fabric paint, and I've heard good things about this. I took a chance, and they have a gloss and a flat version. I decided to go with the flat just because I don't want shiny on this. So I think this will be a better option. As far as how I'm gonna do this, so there's a decal right over here, and that's why I have that masked off. I tried to take the decal off, however, it looks like it's fused on there, and I didn't want to damage it, so I just said screw it, let me tape it and hope for the best. So we're going to be doing that. And then on the flip side, originally I was going to paint the little mirrors, the plastic piece, but I decided not to, just because it's a lot of work and I don't want to have to mask this whole entire thing just to paint this little thing. You only see it pretty much when you pull it down, so I didn't think it was worth the squeeze. I may change my mind in the future, but yeah, we'll do this, and then we'll do this with the trim and bumper paint. All right, and just like that, we're back in business. If you don't have friends like me, this tripod right here, something like it, is gonna be your best friend. It'll help you hold it while you put the clips in or have to make any adjustments. As far as these clips back here, I bought a kit from Amazon a while back, and this thing has been a lifesaver. So you should be just fine with any pretty much big kit of these little retainer clip things, and everything looks good. But everything else is just in reverse order, so basically you're doing everything that you undid the last time. All right, moment of truth. You guys ready for this? Check it out. Man, this is the way it should have came from factory. Honestly, looks super clean. I'm gonna hop in the car and show you the details. All right, here we are, guys. Everything looks good. I'm still waiting on the visor, so don't mind that. Everything honestly came out really, really well. The only thing I am probably gonna end up changing is I don't like the way this came out. So because I'm leaving this gray, I should have left this gray. And I'm probably gonna hit it with some acetone, but no big deal. Other than that, everything else came out really, really good. Check out the corners, the edges. Once again, don't mind the visors. Those are still waiting paint, but I wanted to get this out. Everything came out good. So when you're doing this, just be mindful that putting it back together is a little bit more difficult than taking it off. You will have to, because now you have a much thicker headliner. You will have to basically get it to fit a little bit better. So just make sure that when you're doing this, you're using that trim right over there as another form of support, and that's basically what it ends up going. But it's super solid, looks super clean. Everything came out good. Even this looks a lot better now that it's actually installed. And yeah, guys, I'm very excited. So hopefully you guys enjoyed the journey. It's been a long one. I'm very excited. I should have done this a long time ago. You guys already know what's next. So I'm gonna go ahead and get the carpet cleaned up, obviously vacuumed and shampooed and all that stuff, and get that cleaned up, and you guys know what's next. If you're new to the channel, I'll go ahead and leave you with a little teaser, but I'll catch you on the next one. You're not gonna wanna miss it. I'm out, peace.